This is runmichigan.com. We're here in Flint Township getting ready for the 40th annual Crim Festival of Races, another great big weekend in Flint. And we're talking with the winner of way back in time, the first ever Crim, Steve Kenyon, originally from Bolton in England.
Still am.
From
Yes.
Bolton in England. Hopped back over here to celebrate the 40th annual. And Steve, welcome back to Flint. Welcome back to Michigan.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
So, 40th annual, the very, very first ever Crim. You were battling it out in Flint with some pretty fast runners back then. Tell me about your experience of that first one.
I was battling out with some great runners, yes, Bill Rogers and Gary Bjorklund and some great American athletes, but also battling the weather as well, as the race started at midday that year.
Right.
I'd arrived here in Flint from typical British weather. It was pretty cool, probably raining, into it was almost somebody left the central heating on when I got off the plane. I think it was so hot, 90 degrees, 90% humidity. I won the race in 50 minutes and 5 seconds, which was a good 2 minutes or so slower than what I was running at that time. So the weather affected everybody. Really tough.
How did that play into your, looking back, how did that play into kind of the pace and the race strategy to that day, or did you go out in your normal
It's a long time. I can't remember too much about it, but I think I broke away. I have a photograph somewhere where the three of us are together, and somebody said, well, that's the building behind was somewhere around the 8 and 9 mile point, and I thought, I can't remember it being so late, but I obviously got away in the later stages to win. I can remember finishing on Saginaw Street, and it was so hot, and at the finish line it was then, I think, the Genesee Bank, and I went into the bank and they had air conditioning, which was something you don't get very often in the UK, and it was so cool. It was great. I think I can remember phoning my parents from the bank as well to say that I'd won the race. That's a good memory, because my mother passed away 2 years later. In fact, she passed away. I came from the 79 Crim. I was here to run it at Falmouth as well, and I got the word that my mother had passed away and I had to go back home. Missed the Falmouth race, obviously, but my dad said, well, if you feel up to it, to do so I came back, ran the Crim and finished third, I think I was that year. So yeah, so there's a lot of memories attached to the Crim for me.
So
I've been in first, I've been second, I've been third, so I've occupied all the top positions.
And like you mentioned earlier, you do have some great memories of the Crim, with that race in '77 and coming back. And just what does the Crim in general mean to you? You've been back a few times now.
Oh yes. I was here as a competitive athlete from '77 to '87. As I said earlier on in my talk, when I realised '87 was my last race, I can remember how hard it was. The realisation that I wouldn't be coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And when 1988 came round, I said to my wife, it's the Crim tomorrow, and then the following year, and every year since then, I've said it religiously, it's the Crim this weekend. And then when they reached out to me in 2006 to come back for the 30th celebration, I was overjoyed to come back again and see everybody again. John, people like that, Roseanne, Steve, meet new people. Hopefully I'm going to meet new people this weekend, new friends for the 40th Crim. Always come back to Crim when they ask me.
Right. The race kind of environment back then in the 70s. Talk about that a little bit. About the guys you competed with and just how fierce the competition was back then.
It was a little bit. It was still some fierce. When I got the phone call to come here, they said, "Oh, Bill Rogers is competing," and Gary Bjorklund and Jeff Galloway, who were both Olympians for the United States that year in Montreal. So it was a good class of field here. So Bill Rogers was somebody you read about in Runner's World. You never met Bill. We've become good friends since then, obviously. In fact, 2 years later, we ran in New York. Bill won one of his 4 victories in New York, and I finished third behind Bill that year. And I always remember we got false started at the start in a marathon, and we were way back, and I had a watch on, and Bill was asking me for the times, and I just ran with Bill till about 15 miles where he slowly pulled away. But that's another good memory that's attached to the Crim.
Right. So, well, welcome back, like I said, to Michigan, and great to have you back, and some great memories and some great stories.
Great memories, yeah, it's great to be back. Thank you very much.
So, well, have a great weekend. Enjoy your time back in Michigan.
Thank you, nice talking to you.
You too.